Lethal legacy of World War II, old weapons still present on modern battlefields. Nearly a century has passed, yet the weapons that once dominated World War II haven't completely disappeared from modern conflicts. Though coated in the dust of time and overshadowed by cutting-edge technology, many weapons from the 1940s remain lethally effective and are still in use today by certain forces. Some have become historical icons, but many continue to come back to life on the front lines, from rebel groups and militias to reserve armies. STG-44, the grandfather of all modern assault rifles. In today's world of firearms, modern assault rifles share several common features. They're lightweight, easy to use, capable of automatic fire, and fire intermediate cartridges. Ammunition smaller than traditional rifle rounds, but still powerful enough to eliminate targets at combat ranges. The origin of this design philosophy can be traced back to the STG-44, a military innovation by Nazi Germany developed in the early 1940s. Short for Sturmgewehr 44, translated as storm rifle, the weapon was officially developed in 1942 with the goal of providing individual soldiers with more powerful firepower, particularly in medium-range engagements, where most battles of the time occurred between 200 and 600 meters. The engineer behind the STG-44 was Hugo Schmeisser. The rifle used 7.92 by 33mm Kurz rounds, a shortened version of the standard German 7.92 by 57mm Mauser cartridge. Although it sacrificed long-range performance compared to traditional rifles, the trade-off was increased ammunition capacity and a firing rate of 500 to 600 rounds per minute. It featured a detachable 30-round magazine, a feature that would later become standard in most assault rifles around the world. Between 1943 and 1945, approximately 425,000 STG-44 units were produced and officially issued to the German Army in 1944. Despite its groundbreaking design and high performance, the STG-44 came too late to change the course of the war. By the time it was deployed, Allied forces were already gaining the upper hand and Germany was on the decline. After World War II ended, many countries studied the captured STG-44 rifles. Among them, the Soviet Union developed the legendary AK-47, which would go on to become the most widespread firearm in modern history. It can be said that the STG-44 laid the foundation for the entire concept of the assault rifle that modern militaries continue to rely on today. Interestingly, a small number of STG-44s have been found in modern-day conflicts, particularly in war zones with limited resources. In 2012, Syrian rebel forces discovered and used a stockpile of 5,000 STG-44 rifles still in working condition, proving the weapon's incredible durability and reliability. By 2014, Ukrainian soldiers were filmed carrying STG-44s during fighting in the Donbass region. While there's little evidence that the weapon remains in widespread use in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, its appearance in hotspots serves as a stark reminder: vintage weapons are not necessarily obsolete. The STG-44 is not only a historical milestone in the evolution of modern firearms, but also a testament to how seemingly outdated technologies can survive the test of time and continue to serve in brutal conflicts. From the trenches of 1945 to contemporary battlefields, the echoes of World War II still resound through the reports of vintage gunfire, and the STG-44 stands as the ultimate symbol of that enduring legacy. M2 Browning, the immortal icon of heavy firepower. Throughout the history of modern warfare, few weapons have maintained such a firm and lasting presence as the M2 Browning heavy machine gun. First introduced near the end of World War I, the M2 has proven that some military designs are truly timeless, powerful, efficient, and requiring virtually no significant changes for decades. The origin of this gun traces back to General John Pershing, who, after witnessing battles in Europe, realized that the U.S. military lacked a machine gun capable of effectively engaging new armored threats like tanks and fighter planes. He called for a weapon more powerful than the then-standard .30-inch M1917 machine gun, and legendary firearms designer John Moses Browning took on the challenge. The result was the creation of the M2 Browning, chambered in the massive .50 BMG 12.7mm caliber, one of the most powerful machine guns ever built. American soldiers affectionately and respectfully nicknamed it Ma Deuce, a term that captured both familiarity and offer its overwhelming power. The M2 is not a lightweight weapon. The standard version weighs over 38 kilograms, about 84 pounds, and even the lighter variant still tips the scales at around 27 kilograms, nearly 60 pounds, making it far too heavy for infantry to carry and operate easily. However, this didn't stop the US military from officially adopting it in 1933, and it quickly became widespread during World War II. The M2 was mounted virtually everywhere, from static defensive positions to motor vehicles like jeeps, tanks, and trucks, and even on fighter planes and bombers. On naval vessels, M2s were often mounted in twin or quadruple configurations to counter aerial threats. Most notably, the M45 quad mount, or M2S mounted on a mobile turret, struck such fear into enemies that troops gave it the grim nickname Meat Grinder. While it's best known for its sheer destructive power, the M2 Browning is also praised for its accuracy. With an effective range of over 1.6 kilometers, 1 mile, the gun was even used by legendary sniper Carlos Hathcock during the Vietnam War. By mounting a telescopic scope onto an M2, he made several deadly precision shots, proof that this machine gun could rival even specialized sniper rifles in capability and flexibility. One reason the M2 is so effective in that role is its relatively moderate rate of fire, about 450 to 500 rounds per minute, allowing for better control and even precise single-shot firing when needed. More than just powerful and accurate, the M2 is a symbol of extraordinary durability. In 2015, a 94-year-old M2 was brought in for maintenance and still functioned perfectly after nearly a century of continuous use. That kind of performance speaks volumes about its superior craftsmanship and build quality. To this day, the M2 Browning holds the record for the longest-serving firearm in U.S. military history, a feat few, if any, other weapons can claim. From World War II to Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, the M2 has remained a battlefield staple, trusted by generations of soldiers. In a world where weaponry constantly evolves with ever-advancing technology, the M2 Browning stands tall as an irreplaceable monument. The old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, has never rung truer than when applied to this legendary machine gun. With its unmatched power, precision, and resilience proven across nearly a century of warfare, the M2 is not just a weapon, it's a living legacy of modern military history. Lee-Enfield, the legendary bolt-action rifle still firing after over a century. In the history of modern warfare, few rifles have achieved the fame and longevity of the Lee-Enfield, the iconic bolt-action firearm of the British Empire and the Commonwealth. Not only did it play a crucial role in World War II, but the Lee-Enfield line continued to serve for decades afterward, and remarkably, it can still be found on front lines even today. The first version of the Lee-Enfield was an improvement upon the earlier Lee-Metford model, designed for faster operation and long-term durability. The SMLE Mark III, short for Short Magazine Lee-Enfield, was officially adopted in the late 19th century and became the standard issue rifle for British forces during World War I. Compared to its contemporaries, the SMLE stood out with a detachable 10-round magazine loaded with .303 British cartridges, double the capacity of most bolt-action rifles at the time. Thanks to its ergonomic design, British soldiers could quickly cycle the bolt without losing sight alignment, enabling them to execute the famous Mad Minute tactic, where a well-trained soldier could accurately fire up to 30 rounds per minute. This tactic was so effective that many German troops mistakenly believed they were under attack from machine guns, not just riflemen. After World War I, the UK continued to refine the rifle. By the 1930s, the rifle No. 4 emerged as a comprehensive upgrade. It retained the .303 caliber and 10-round magazine, but featured a heavier barrel and simplified construction for easier mass production. Traditional bayonets were replaced with a spike-style bayonet. The rifle's naming system was also revamped. The SMLE Mark III became known as the Rifle No. 1 Mark III, and the Rifle No. 4 became the standard weapon of British and Commonwealth forces during World War II. Several variants were developed alongside it, including the Rifle No. 5 Jungle Carbine for tropical terrain, sniper-specific models, and versions intended for training recruits. Even long after the end of World War II, the Lee-Enfield refused to fade into obscurity. Throughout the 1950s and well into the late 20th century, many nations continued to field various versions of the rifle, especially former British colonies like Canada, Australia, South Africa, Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. In many of these countries, the Lee-Enfield now plays a secondary role used for ceremonial duties, training purposes, or issued to reserve forces. However, there are still areas where it remains in active combat use. In India and Pakistan, the SMLE is still employed by border security and local militias to counter cross-border terrorism. In Afghanistan, many local fighters even prefer the Lee-Enfield over the AK-47 due to its longer range and superior accuracy, a critical advantage in medium and long-range engagements. Owning an authentic Lee-Enfield can be a luxury for some. Yet in the remote Khyber Pass region between Afghanistan and Pakistan, local gunsmiths have been handcrafting replicas of the Lee-Enfield using traditional techniques. Though these local legend rifles don't meet industrial standards, they are nonetheless used in real combat situations, a testament to the enduring legacy and widespread respect for this firearm. More than a century since its first appearance, the Lee-Enfield continues to symbolize the perfect blend of performance, reliability, and adaptability. Not only is it an irreplaceable part of British military history, but it has also left a deep impression on nations, warriors, and collectors around the globe. From the trenches of world wars to the rugged mountains of Afghanistan, the Lee-Enfield continues to fire rounds of history as powerful and precise as ever. MG42, the steel storm that struck terror on the battlefield. Among all personal weapons deployed during World War II, Nazi Germany's MG42 was one of the most feared machine guns by Allied forces. With its devastating firepower and terrifying rate of fire, this weapon forced entire front lines to rethink how they approach combat. The MG42 was developed to replace the MG34, a highly regarded weapon but one too complex and expensive for mass production during wartime. After several rounds of refinement, the MG42 officially entered service in 1942 and quickly proved superior with a simpler design, lower production costs, and remarkable reliability and performance. What made the MG42 legendary above all was its blistering rate of fire, ranging from 1,200 to 1,500 rounds per minute, so fast that the human ear couldn't distinguish individual shots. Instead, it sounded like a zipper being ripped open or a chainsaw cutting through steel. This led to the infamous Allied nicknames like Hitler's buzzsaw and Hitler's zipper, names that captured the weapon's chilling deadliness. However, that incredible rate of fire came with a major drawback: the barrel overheated rapidly. After just a few hundred rounds, typically 200 to 250, the barrel would need to be swapped out to prevent jamming or damage. This is why every MG42 crew usually consisted of 6 soldiers, including one specifically tasked with carrying spare barrels and assisting with rapid barrel changes via a side-mounted quick-swap mechanism on the right of the gun. The MG42 saw action on every front where German forces were present, from the frozen Eastern Front to the harsh deserts of North Africa. It was used both by mobile infantry units and in static defensive positions, such as the Atlantic Wall, the massive coastal defense line across Western Europe. The MG42's effectiveness wasn't limited to the German army. It was also adopted by numerous other countries, including Italy, Norway, Romania, Portugal, Yugoslavia, and Spain. Its timeless design inspired a generation of machine guns, including Austria's MG74, Switzerland's MG710-3, and most notably the American M60, the standard U.S. machine gun during the Vietnam War. Although the original MG42 is no longer in active service with the German military, its legacy lives on through its direct successor, the MG3. This updated model retains the MG42's core design but has been modified to meet NATO standards. It fires 7.62 by 51 mm NATO rounds instead of the original 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser ammunition. Other small adjustments have been made to improve durability, compatibility, and ease of maintenance in modern combat environments. Today, the MG3 remains one of the primary machine guns of the German military and is in service with dozens of other countries, from Europe to the Middle East. With its high battlefield performance and rugged design, the MG3 stands as a clear testament to the lasting impact of World War II-era weapon engineering. The MG42 was not just a machine gun, it was a symbol of ultimate battlefield firepower in the 20th century. With its haunting sound, terrifying fire rate, and influence on subsequent weapon designs, the MG42 etched its name into military history as one of the most formidable weapons ever created. And even decades later, the chainsaw of Hitler still echoes across modern war zones through the barrels of the MG3, faithfully carrying on the legacy of its infamous predecessor. Madsen, the light machine gun ahead of its time in its century-long service journey. As one of the first light machine guns to see widespread use on the battlefield, the Madsen LMG stands as a prime example of how timeless design can endure through generations of military conflict. Patented in Denmark in 1901, the Madsen went on to become one of the longest-serving machine guns in modern history. From the early 20th century, the Madsen made an impressive debut during the Russo-Japanese War in 1905, one of the first large-scale modern conflicts. During World War I, the Russian Empire purchased around 1,250 units to equip its air force. Meanwhile, Germany experimented with 500 Madsens chambered in 7.92mm Mauser, though they were soon replaced by the standardized Maxim 0815 due to stricter weapon uniformity requirements. By the time World War II broke out, the Madsen had been adopted as the standard machine gun for both the Danish and Norwegian armies. After these nations fell to Nazi Germany, the Germans made use of captured Madsens as supplementary weapons for logistics and defensive positions. One of the countries that invested most seriously in the Madsen was Brazil, which made large purchases in 1932, 1935, and again in 1949. In the 1950s, Brazil upgraded its entire Madsen arsenal to chamber the newly introduced NATO standard 7.62 by 51mm ammunition. This improved version retained the original Madsen M1924's rate of fire, 400 to 500 rounds per minute, but extended its effective range to 1,200 yards, almost 1,100 meters. In 1996, due to tightening defense budgets and aging equipment, the Brazilian armed forces transferred the remaining Madsens to the military police, especially in urban areas like Rio de Janeiro. By then, rifles like the FN-FAL, M16, and K5 had become outdated or too worn out, and the Madsen, despite its age, emerged as a reliable alternative. Initially, the Madsen was deployed with 2- or 3-man crews and used with a bipod for support. However, over time, individual deployment with shoulder slings became more common, allowing officers greater mobility during anti-drug raids and urban operations. Remarkably, the Madsen is still seen in the hands of police officers in Rio today, where gunfights with armed gangs occur almost daily. Its powerful, sustained fire is said to have a demoralizing effect on criminals within the favelas, slums. In such chaotic urban environments, the Madsen's distinct firing sound and psychological pressure continue to serve as an effective form of mental warfare. Over a century since its creation, the Madsen continues to prove one key point: good design transcends time. From early 20th century wars to modern anti-crime operations, the Madsen is more than just a weapon, it's a symbol of durability, adaptability, and combat effectiveness. That's precisely why this light machine gun still holds its place, even in an era dominated by highly modernized weaponry. Colt M1911, the legendary sidearm that lives on in U.S. military history. At the dawn of the 20th century, following brutal battles during the Philippine-American War, the U.S. military realized that their issued .38 caliber revolvers were underpowered for real-world combat. This led to an urgent demand for a more powerful sidearm, specifically one chambered in .45 caliber and designed as a semi-automatic pistol. In 1907, John Moses Browning, one of the greatest firearms designers in history, set out to create an entirely new handgun. The result was the Colt M1911, a mechanical masterpiece widely regarded as one of the most successful pistol designs in global military history. Chambered in .45 ACP, automatic Colt pistol, the M1911 delivered immense stopping power, making it especially effective in close-quarters combat. As the United States entered World War I, the M1911 was quickly adopted as the standard-issue sidearm across all branches of the military. In the brutal trench warfare environment, where close combat and quick response were often the difference between life and death, the M1911 proved invaluable, powerful, accurate, and rugged. After the war, minor refinements were made throughout the 1920s to improve handling and combat effectiveness. The upgraded model, designated the M1911A1, was introduced in 1924. This version featured improved trigger design, ergonomic grip enhancements, and other subtle tweaks. The A1 stood for Alteration 1, signifying the first major upgrade in the weapon's lineage. During World War II, the M1911A1 remained a staple sidearm across U.S. infantry, Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps units. Virtually every branch relied on it, not only for its firepower but also for its reliability under the harshest battlefield conditions. The M1911 wasn't just a hero of the two world wars. It went on to serve in the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, and numerous modern operations in the Middle East. During the Vietnam War, it was the preferred weapon of tunnel rats, American soldiers tasked with exploring and fighting in the enemy's underground tunnel networks, where tight spaces demanded compact, powerful firearms. Even after the Beretta M9 officially replaced the M1911 in the 1980s, many soldiers, especially within Special Forces units, chose to keep the classic .45. In conflicts such as the Gulf War, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and the war in Afghanistan, the Colt M1911 continued to see use, proving the enduring strength of a design that had already surpassed the century mark. Today, the M1911 is still in service with various armed forces around the world, whether in modernized forms or as direct copies of the original. Countries like the Philippines, Bangladesh, Greece, and Thailand continue to issue M1911 pistols or licensed variants to their military and police forces. In Thailand, the Type 86, a domestically produced model based on the M1911A1, remains in active use. Beyond military use, the M1911 has become a cultural icon among civilian gun enthusiasts in the United States. Dozens of manufacturers produce custom versions of the M1911, offering a wide variety of finishes, materials, and configurations for sport shooting, personal defense, and collectors. Many American veterans who carried the M1911 in combat still hold a deep respect for the weapon, considering it a living piece of their history. The Colt M1911 is more than just a pistol. It is a lasting symbol of strength, precision, and trust in timeless design. From the battlefields of the early 1900s to the front lines of the 21st century, this firearm continues to serve quietly and reliably, maintaining its revered place among soldiers and firearm enthusiasts around the world. M3 Grease Gun, a cost-effective but reliable solution for the U.S. military in World War II. In the early 1940s, as World War II raged across the globe, the U.S. Army launched a sweeping modernization campaign to better equip its soldiers. Among the issues under close examination was one clear problem. While the Thompson submachine gun was highly effective and well-regarded, it was simply too expensive for mass wartime production. At $45 a piece, equivalent to over $600 today, it posed a serious economic burden. Faced with this challenge, the U.S. military needed a cheaper alternative, something easy to mass-produce yet capable of meeting combat demands. Out of this practical necessity came the M3 Grease Gun, a weapon designed with brutal simplicity as both an economical and effective submachine gun. In January 1943, the Pentagon signed a contract for the production of 300,000 minutes and 3 seconds. Each unit cost just $22.94, less than half the cost of a Thompson. To keep production costs low, the M3 was designed to fire in full auto mode only with no semi-automatic option. Its appearance was unusual, round and elongated. The M3 looked more like an industrial grease applicator than a weapon. Soldiers quickly gave it the nickname Grease Gun, along with other humorous monikers like the Plumber's Nightmare or Whipped Cream Dispenser. The M3 fired .45 ACP rounds, the same as the Thompson, with a rate of fire around 450 rounds per minute. While slower than the Thompson, this made it easier to control during sustained fire. The gun was made from just 73 parts, the majority of which were stamped or pressed steel. Only the barrel and bolt required precision machining. This streamlined construction significantly reduced production time and cost, critical advantages during wartime. However, the M3 wasn't without flaws. Its hand-crank-style charging handle was notoriously fragile and could easily break if used with too much force. The 30-round magazine was prone to jamming when dirt or debris entered, leading to feeding issues. To counter this, manufacturers included a magazine loading tool and plastic dust covers to protect the mags. Another weakness was the collapsible wire stock. While intended to improve portability, it could bend or break with rough handling, making it difficult to aim accurately once damaged. Despite these drawbacks, the M3 grease gun earned a solid reputation for reliability and ease of use. After World War II, it continued serving in the U.S. military throughout the Korean War, Vietnam War, and Cold War hotspots in regions like Central America, South America, and Southeast Asia. The M3 was officially retired from U.S. Army service after the Gulf War in 1991, ending over half a century of frontline deployment. But its story didn't stop there. Today, the Philippine Navy and Marine Corps still utilize upgraded M3s outfitted with suppressors and red dot sights. Budget constraints have made it difficult to replace them with newer and more expensive submachine guns like Israel's Uzi or the locally made Floro 9mm. The M3 grease gun stands as a testament to wartime design pragmatism. It didn't need to be elegant or sophisticated, only functional, affordable, easy to replace, and simple to train with. With over 50 years of service spanning Europe, Asia, and Latin America, the M3 carved out a unique place in the evolution of handheld weaponry. Even today, in the dusty corners of armories around the world, the occasional grease gun still roars to life, reminding us that simplicity in design does not mean mediocrity in performance. M101 Howitzer, the timeless field artillery piece. Born from lessons learned and inspiration drawn from captured German artillery in World War I, the 105mm M101 howitzer became one of the most important pieces of field artillery in the U.S. military throughout the 20th century. Although its initial design was sketched as early as 1919, it wasn't until more than 2 decades later, in 1940, that the M101 officially entered service. Originally developed during the transitional period between 2 world wars, the first design of the M101 was intended to be horse-drawn. However, the shift toward mechanized warfare forced engineers to completely redesign the carriage to be compatible with military towing vehicles. This modernization was completed in 1939, paving the way for mass production. Weighing in at over 2.2 tons, the M101 was towed by the M2 artillery tractor, significantly increasing its mobility compared to World War I-era cannons. It fired semi-fixed high-explosive 105mm rounds and had a maximum range of up to 11,270 meters. Its combination of range, firepower, and accuracy quickly made it an indispensable infantry support weapon across both the European and Pacific theaters. By the end of World War II, more than 8,500 minutes and 101 seconds had been produced, and production continued until 1953. The durability of both the barrel and the carriage contributed to its reputation for long-term reliability in the field. From the Korean War to the Vietnam War and countless smaller conflicts during the Cold War, the M101 served as a powerful fire support platform for American troops and Allied forces alike. Although many countries have since officially retired the M101 from active service, numerous units remain in storage, ready to be redeployed if needed. A prime example came in September 2022, when Lithuania donated an undisclosed number of M101 howitzers to Ukraine amid escalating conflict with Russia. These cannons bolstered Ukrainian artillery capabilities on critical fronts. Even after more than a century since its original design, the M101 continues to demonstrate battlefield value, largely thanks to its compatibility with 105mm shells, a common and standardized caliber used in many modern light artillery systems. What's truly remarkable is how the M101 is being integrated with modern technology to optimize its effectiveness. Today's artillery crews can use real-time GPS coordinates and reconnaissance drone data to adjust fire, dramatically increasing precision in combat scenarios. Additionally, with the use of rocket-assisted M927 projectiles, the M101's range can be extended by more than 40% beyond its original specs, elevating this century-old howitzer to an entirely new level of performance. The M101 howitzer is more than just a weapon. It's a symbol of durability, effectiveness, and adaptability across multiple eras of warfare. From the muddy trenches of World War II to today's high-tech battlefields in Eastern Europe, the M101 continues to fire, proving that great designs, no matter how old, can still play a vital role in 21st century combat. D-44, the durable post-World War II Soviet anti-tank gun. Immediately after World War II ended, the Soviet Red Army swiftly introduced a new artillery piece to replace the legendary ZAS-3 field gun, which had been in service since 1941. The result was the D-44, a divisional-level anti-tank gun designed not only to destroy armored vehicles but also to serve as a multi-role fire support weapon on the battlefield. One of the D-44's most notable features is its 85mm barrel derived from the main gun mounted on the T-34/85 tank, one of the most successful tanks in Soviet military history. This allowed the D-44 to use the same powerful ammunition as the tank, enhancing both its anti-armor capability and long-range firepower. In 1946, the D-44 officially entered mass production and quickly became one of the most important artillery systems of the Soviet post-war arsenal. Under ideal combat conditions, the D-44 could achieve a firing rate of 20 rounds per minute, an impressive figure for a field gun of its time. It had a maximum range of up to 15.6 kilometers, with effective anti-tank engagement distances around 1,000 meters. The D-44 was capable of firing a wide variety of ammunition types, including high-explosive HE shells for targeting infantry and fortifications, armor-piercing AP rounds capable of penetrating 100 to 180 millimeters of steel armor, Heat BK 2M high-explosive anti-tank shells with up to 300 millimeters of penetration, enough to destroy most post-war tanks. Between 1945 and 1954, the Soviet Union produced approximately 10,800 D-44 guns, a massive number that underscores the trust placed in its combat effectiveness. The D-44 wasn't just used by the Soviet military, it was widely exported to Soviet-aligned and friendly nations such as Egypt, Iran, Iraq, North Korea, Syria, Poland, Romania, and many others. This gun saw action in nearly every major Cold War conflict, including the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Arab-Israeli Wars. Astonishingly, even after more than 75 years, the D-44 has not completely disappeared from the battlefield. In May 2022, a viral video revealed that D-44 guns, originally produced by the Soviet Union, were still being used by Ukrainian forces in the ongoing war against Russia. Some were deployed as conventional artillery, while others were ingeniously mounted on 1970s-era MTLB armored chassis, transforming them into simple yet effective self-propelled tank destroyers. This creative adaptation shows that what many might consider outdated weapons can still inflict serious damage when paired with modern tactics. The D-44 is a clear example of how legacy military designs can retain relevance in modern warfare, especially when combined with contemporary strategy and technology. While many nations are racing to develop cutting-edge weapons systems somewhere on the front lines, these steel warriors from the World War II era are still firing and continuing to write their own chapter in the story of war. If you found this content interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more exciting videos on legendary weapons and modern battlefields.